friends, welcome back to Yogahound. Today we're talking all about the downward facing dog. Even people that don't practice yoga know what down dog is. And it's a pose that is often used in your yoga classes or your yoga practice. It's certainly part of the sun salutations, but also you may often find your teachers telling you that downward facing dog is kind of like your home base. So like child's pose, if you get tired or you need a break, you can come into downward facing dog. And that's because it's a very grounding pose, obviously because you have both your hands on the ground and both of your feet planted on your mat. But it's a very introspective pose too, because you're kind of folded in. So it's a really good way to start your yoga practice and get settled. But also if at any point in time you feel like a practice is getting to be too much, it's a really good way to kind of come back and reset. Downward facing dog is also a really interesting pose because it's basically an inversion. So it has a lot of the same benefits for your spine specifically. It elongates your spine and extends it. It's also one of the few poses, or one of unique poses, that actually stretches and strengthens at the same time. So obviously it's stretching your hamstrings, your chest, but it's also strengthening your quad muscles, it's strengthening your shoulders and your core. Sean is over it. She's going exploring. Okay. With the downward facing dog though, what I find a lot of the times, it's a pose that's kind of taken for granted. So, you know, we say like go into downward facing dog, and people know what that is and they get there, but I find that a lot of the times people don't actually know what they're supposed to be engaging and what they're supposed to be doing. And as a teacher, when you're teaching a class for 20 people, you can't really, like in the 5 breaths that people are in down dog, you can't really go and adjust everybody. So I thought I would do this video to show you guys how to do down dog and make sure that you're doing it properly. And down dog is actually a deceptively hard pose to do. So if you're ever in down dog and it's feeling easy, you're probably not doing it right. So we're just gonna jump right into it and we're gonna talk downward facing dog. Alright, so in the foundation of the pose, your hands are supposed to be shoulder distance apart and your feet are about hip distance apart. And you see here how my heels are not actually touching the mat because my hamstrings are too tight. And if I were to try and put my heels down onto the mat, do you see how that rounded my lower back? So that means that in order for me to keep a neutral spine in this pose, I need to bend my knees slightly, which is going to bring my heels up off the mat. And that's totally fine because then that allows me to put my spine in the proper alignment. You also want to be thinking about sending your seat bones kind of up and towards the back of the room, which will also help to elongate your spine, and you're gonna feel a stretch in your hamstrings here, and your quads are working. Now your belly is engaged, so your belly button is drawing into the spine to keep you stable here. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about the shoulders and the hands, and I'm just gonna switch the angle for that. So in terms of the upper body in downward facing dog, what you want is to have your hands shoulder distance apart, and you want your fingertips to be spread really nice and wide on your mat and gripping. So you really don't want your fingers to be together like this. You want to increase the surface area, so you really want to spread them out as wide as you can. And you want to think about shifting the weight into the knuckles and the fingertips of your hands and kind of gripping like this way. You really don't want to be dumping all of the weight into your wrists. And the reason for that is there's a nerve that runs here, and it's called the median nerve. And this is the nerve that runs through the carpal tunnel. Now I'm sure you've all heard of the carpal tunnel syndrome, and it's really painful, it makes your fingers go numb, it's not a cute thing. Basically you can help avoid yourself developing carpal tunnel syndrome if you're mindful of where you bear weight in these yoga poses. So definitely you don't want to put too much weight on your wrists because you can compress the median nerve essentially, which may cause carpal tunnel syndrome. Now this is all scary, but if you practice yoga occasionally and do downward facing dog not that often, and you bear into your wrists, that's not going to cause a huge problem. Now if you practice on a daily basis and you're constantly making the same error where you're dumping the weight into your wrists, plus maybe you have a job where you are maybe prone to developing carpal tunnel syndrome anyway, if you're typing on a keyboard a lot for example, you want to do what you can in order to help minimize the chance of you getting carpal tunnel syndrome. So definitely Thing to remember, fingertips spread really nice and wide, shifting the weight into the knuckles and the fingertips of your hands to grip the mat. Now that we have figured out what our hands are doing, we're going to talk about the shoulders and the arms, which are very important because you're bearing a lot of weight in your shoulders. Okay, here we go. So mistake number one that you want to avoid in your shoulders is this. So you're going to see a lot of people, and maybe yourself, pinching through the shoulders here like this, because this is easy. Like, to me right now, I am doing zero work, but you're also potentially causing some problems and some impingement in the shoulder here. So what you want to think about is bringing the shoulders away from the ears and squeezing your shoulder blades kind of closer together in the back there. Now, just doing that little movement, I have so much more action in my shoulder muscles right now, and this is much harder to hold because I'm not just dumping all of my weight into the fronts of my shoulders. I'm actually supporting my weight in the shoulders here. So really important that you're not doing this. You're not here, you're not just hanging out. You're shrugging the shoulders away from the ears and really feeling that muscular engagement through the shoulder blades. So now, once you've created some space for your neck by shrugging the shoulders away from the ears, you want to think about relaxing the neck. Now, this is a bit funny because your shoulders are working really hard here, but your neck should really be relaxed and your head should hang freely. Now, turning our attention down to the arms, a lot of the times, again, if you're here, your elbows, the insides of your elbows are going to be kind of turning inwards. You don't want to be doing that because, again, you're just creating more and more impingement through the shoulders. What you want to do instead, think about spinning the insides of your elbows up towards the ceiling. Now, you're not really actually going to achieve that, but you should feel like this is making your arms work a lot harder. So you should feel this in your triceps, your biceps, and your forearms. The action here is that of spinning the insides of your elbows up towards the ceiling. So instead of like this, the upper body in your down dog should look like this. So now, let's put it all together. Alright, so for the foundation, you have your hands shoulder distance apart, fingertips are spreading nice and wide, weight is being pushed into the knuckles and the fingertips of your hands. You're going to move the shoulders away from the ears, tuck your toes under, send your hip bones, your sitting bones up towards the ceiling, and here you're bending your knees as much as you need to in order to get your spine into a neutral alignment. So you're not necessarily doing this and rounding. You're bending your knees and really trying to get the curves in your back to be in a natural position. Really pressing those seat bones back towards the back of the room, wherever that is. Drawing the belly button into the spine. Your shoulders are shrugging away from the ears. Shoulder blades are working to hug at your back. Neck is relaxed, head is hanging freely. Elbows are working to spin up towards the ceiling, and again, the weight is not in your wrists. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you should feel like you're working a lot on the downward facing dog. And if you feel like you're working, that means you're doing it right. Just to give you a bit of an understanding, what you will see a lot of the times is this. This is not a good example of a downward facing dog. Where you actually want to be is here. So from here to here. And that's how you do downward facing dog. I hope you guys found this video helpful and that you were able to take some tips and tricks away from it. So next time you're doing downward facing dog, either in your home practice or in class, you will have a little bit of a better understanding of what you're looking for, what you're doing with your body, and what you're supposed to be feeling like. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want me to do more videos like this where I talk about how to do a specific pose, leave a comment down below to let me know that A, you want to see more videos like this, and B, what pose you would like me to break down next. And of course, please don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video from me. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Namaste!